Ethan Cole was a name that meant nothing to the world. No headlines. No awards. No photographs. But inside classified files buried deep within American intelligence agencies, his name was marked in red: DEADEXTREME Yet Ethan Cole was very much alive. He stood on the wooden deck of a small house near Malibu Beach, watching the ocean breathe in slow, endless waves. The morning sun touched his face gently, something he once believed he would never feel again. In his arms was his 6-month-old daughter. She laughed softly, gripping his finger with surprising strength. "Easy, princess," Ethan whispered, smiling a real smile, not the fake ones he used in the past. Inside the house, the smell of coffee filled the air. "Ethan!" a woman's voice called. "Your coffee's getting cold?" Sarah Cole. His wife. The only reason he was still human. Sarah was a journalist, fearless, curious, allergic to lies. She had sharp eyes and a kind heart, a dangerous combination in a corrupt world. Ethan had met her after he disappeared from the intelligence grid, when he decided to die as a weapon and be reborn as a man. He placed the baby gently into her crib and walked into the kitchen. Sarah leaned against the counter, holding 2 mugs. "You're thinking again," she said. Ethan took the mug. "I always think." She smiled. "That's what scares me." There was a pause. "I have an interview today," Sarah said casually, "with Senator Marcus Kane." The room changed. Ethan's fingers tightened around the cup. Marcus Kane. To the public, Kane was a hero defense visionary, patriot, savior of American security. To Ethan, Kane was a monster who wore a suit instead of a uniform. "Be careful," Ethan said quietly. Sarah laughed. "He's a politician, not a serial killer." Ethan didn't laugh. His instincts trained by war, betrayal, and blood were screaming. That night, the ocean was silent. Too silent. Ethan lay awake in bed, listening to his daughter's breathing through the baby monitor. Sarah slept beside him, peaceful and unaware. Then it happened. A vibration. Ethan's eyes snapped open. On the nightstand lay a phone that should never have worked again, a secure device from his former life, buried and forgotten for nearly a decade. The screen lit up. One message. WEFO, UNDYOU. Ethan closed his eyes. The past had finally caught up. FLASHBACKTENYEARSARLIER. Desert midnight. Black helicopters. Operation Black Halo. Ethan Cole had been the lead IMF operative, tasked with infiltrating a global arms network supplying weapons to terrorist groups and private militias. The trail led to one man, Marcus Kane. Kane wasn't just selling weapons. He was selling wars. Children disappeared. Villages burned. Governments collapsed. Ethan gathered proof documents, recordings, financial trails. Enough to destroy Kane forever. But the system turned on him. The operation was erased. The evidence buried. Ethan was declared dead. Marcus Kane walked free. And Ethan disappeared. Morning came too quietly. Ethan was in the kitchen warming milk when the sound of breaking glass shattered the calm. "Sarah," he called. No answer. His body moved before his mind could react. He pulled a hidden handgun from beneath the counter muscle, memory flawless despite years of peace. The living room was chaos. Furniture overturned. Blood smeared across the floor. Sarah lay motionless near the couch. "Sarah." Ethan dropped beside her. She was breathing, but barely. Then he noticed the crib. Empty. No, no, no. His heart stopped. On the wall, written in Sarah's blood, were 3 words. YOUOWEUS. Ethan didn't scream. He didn't cry. Something inside him broke clean and final. Hospital lights burned overhead. Doctors spoke, but Ethan barely heard them. "She's alive," one said. But critical. Ethan sat beside Sarah's bed, holding her cold hand. I'm gonna bring her back, he whispered. Our daughter. Sarah's eyelids fluttered. A tear rolled down her cheek. Kill them, she whispered. Those were her last words before slipping into a coma. At that moment, Ethan Cole, the husband, the father, the man seeking peace, ceased to exist. What remained was something far more dangerous. Ethan stood outside the hospital as rain poured down, soaking his clothes, his hair, his face. He didn't move. Inside, Sarah lay unconscious. Somewhere in the world, his daughter was screaming for parents who weren't there. And the men responsible were breathing. That was unacceptable. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out the old phone again. One number. He pressed it. The call connected instantly. A familiar voice answered. You're not supposed to exist. Ethan spoke calmly. I need resources. A pause. Then the voice sighed. You were declared dead for a reason, Ethan. So were they, Ethan replied. Another pause. Europe, the voice said. That's where Cain keeps his shadows. The line went dead. Ethan looked up at the sky. The war had begun. 3 days later. Prague. A city of beauty, secrets, and ghosts. Ethan entered an underground safe house beneath an abandoned train station. The smell of oil and dust filled the air. Lights flickered on. A man stepped forward. Gray hair, hard eyes, old scars. Didn't think I'd ever see you again, the man said. Luther, Ethan replied. Luther Stickle, former IMF tech chief. One of the few men Ethan trusted with his life. You're burning every rule coming back, Luther said. They'll hunt you. They already are. Luther studied Ethan's face. They took your family. Ethan nodded once. Luther turned to a console and began typing. Then let's make the world regret it. Berlin, midnight. A rain-soaked warehouse near the river. Inside, Cain's courier, a man named Victor Hale, laughed while counting money. He didn't hear Ethan drop from the ceiling. The fight was fast, brutal, silent. Victor reached for his gun. Ethan broke his wrist. Where is my daughter? Ethan demanded. Victor spat blood. You don't ask questions anymore. Ethan tightened his grip. Victor screamed. She's alive. Victor shouted. A facility in Romania. Black site. Ethan released him. Victor smiled until Ethan shot him. One bullet. One message. Romania. Carpathian Mountains. A private medical compound disguised as a research facility. Ethan watched through binoculars. Security was heavy. Inside one room, through reinforced glass, he saw her, his daughter, connected to monitors, crying. His hands trembled. A voice echoed behind him. You take one step forward, she dies. Ethan turned. A woman stepped out of the shadows, Isabella Cain. Marcus Cain's daughter. Cold, intelligent, ruthless. She's just insurance, Isabella said. You're the real prize. Ethan lowered his weapon. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. Ethan was captured, beaten, strapped to a chair. Marcus Cain finally appeared on a screen. You should have stayed dead, Cain said calmly. You took everything from me, Ethan replied. Now I'll take everything from you. Cain smiled. You already lost. A gunshot echoed. Ethan screamed. But it wasn't his daughter. It was Cain's man shot by Luther, hacking the system remotely. Alarms blared. Chaos erupted. Ethan broke free. He ran. Bullets followed. Fire spread. And in the smoke, Ethan reached the room. He grabbed his daughter. She stopped crying instantly. As if she knew, the compound exploded behind them. Ethan ran through fire, carrying his child, bleeding, exhausted, but unstoppable. A helicopter waited. Luther's voice crackled through the comm. You've got one chance. Ethan jumped. The helicopter lifted. Missiles fired. The sky burned. But they escaped. For now. back in the U.S. Sarah woke up. Her first words, "Did you get her?" Ethan placed the baby in her arms. Sarah cried. Ethan didn't. Because Marcus Kane was still alive. And Ethan wasn't done. Footage showed burning compounds, dead mercenaries, destroyed facilities. The truth was buried. Marcus Kane owned the narrative. Ethan watched the broadcast from a remote cabin in Colorado. Snow fell outside. Inside, Sarah held their daughter tightly. "They'll never stop," Sarah whispered. Ethan nodded. "Kane won't either." Sarah looked into his eyes, the same eyes she had fallen in love with, now darker, harder. "You're gonna finish this," she said. Ethan didn't deny it. Night. The cabin lights went out. Ethan moved instantly. Gunfire erupted. Windows shattered. Kane's private kill team flooded the cabin. Ethan fought like a ghost, silent, precise, merciless. Bodies hit the floor. But it was a distraction. A voice came from the speakers. "Hello, Ethan. Marcus Kane." "You saved the child," Kane continued calmly. "So I'll take the wife." A scream echoed. Sarah was gone. Ethan stood frozen for half a second. Then rage consumed him. Luther traced Kane's signal. "Swiss Alps," he said. "Private fortress. No laws. No witnesses." Ethan loaded his weapons. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was an execution. Kane moved Sarah via armored train through the Alps. Ethan chased it on a motorcycle. Snow, ice, speed. He jumped. Landed on the train roof. Gunfire, explosions. Inside the train, Ethan fought Kane's elite guards, hand-to-hand broken bones. Blood, screams. He reached the main carriage. Sarah was there bound, bruised but alive. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. Ethan freed her. But Kane escaped against the final stand. Kane's mountain fortress burned under missile fire as Ethan infiltrated from below. Alarms screamed. Guards fell. Ethan reached the control room. Marcus Kane stood alone, armed, calm. "You and I are the same," Kane said. "We do what the world is too afraid to do." Ethan raised his gun. "No," he said. "You hide behind power. I stand for family." Kane fired. Ethan fired back. They fought brutally, fists, blood, rage. Finally, Ethan pinned Kane to the floor. "Please," Kane whispered. Ethan remembered Sarah's blood, his daughter's screams. He pulled the trigger. Marcus Kane was dead. The fortress collapsed. Ethan escaped with Sarah by helicopter. Kane's empire collapsed, overnight documents leaked, allies arrested, secrets exposed. Officially, Ethan Cole died in the explosion. Again, 1 year later. A quiet beach. Ethan walked barefoot, holding his daughter's hand. She laughed, chasing waves. Sarah watched from a distance, smiling. Ethan was no longer hunted, no longer needed. The world believed the monster was dead. And for the first time, he truly was. Ethan kissed his daughter's forehead. "No more running," Sarah said. Ethan smiled. "No more war." The ocean stretched endlessly ahead. Peace earned through blood, sacrifice, and love.